you straighten me out on these things that I get, kind of off in. It's 2018 now, and it seems like to me, but it might just be me, but it seems like everybody is in this time when, if we're not on the path of the higher vibration, trying to stay with that higher part, listening to that part of ourselves, we get banged around a lot more down at the bottom.
It's always been that way, but it is more that way because as more of you live more contrast, more of you are asking, and as more of you are asking, Source is answering all of you in a stronger way. So the non-physical part of you is offering its influence in a stronger way because of the increase in the momentum of what you're asking for. So if you don't let go and go along with it, it's harder on you. That's why thrivers are thriving more and those who aren't thriving are thriving less. It's like those who are prospering are more prosperous, those who aren't are less. It's like a giant magnifying glass is laid over the whole of your society, and whatever you've got going on is going on in a stronger, more obvious way, which is such a wonderful thing. It's what you ask for because it's causing you to launch more rockets. But here's what you're pointing out: if your life, which is all we're talking about here, is causing you to launch more rockets of desire and you're not going along with it, then you've got no satisfaction. Satisfaction is about an intention that you move in the direction of. Yes?
Satisfaction is an intention you move in the direction of.
The feeling of satisfaction is moving toward what you want, and dissatisfaction is holding yourself in resistance to what you want. So when you think that somebody else is the reason that you're not getting what you want, that dissatisfaction just gets compounded big time, doesn't it? Because you're giving all your power over to them, which they don't really have. Feels to you like they do, but they don't. Something as simple as Esther plays a fun game with herself where she draws a bunch of circles on a page and she pretends like it's a piece of Swiss cheese. And then the things that she intends to do on a particular project, like IRS taxes or cleaning out the garage, it could be anything that she procrastinates because it requires a bigger piece of time than she has right now. So she continues to not do it, even though she really wants to do it. So she wants to do it and doesn't do it. It causes a sort of tension in her. So she just puts it in the little circles on the page, and then she says to herself, I'm just going to eventually get all of that circle. She uses a yellow marker because it's the color of cheese, and she just crosses them off when she gets them done.
Colored cheese?
Yellow cheese. And every time she does it, she's moving a little closer toward an intention, and it has increased the satisfaction factor. Because don't you all, it's certainly true of Esther, have things that are so delicious to do that every impulse you have moves you in the direction of it? Well, you have a lot of intentions that you haven't created enough momentum that it feels that way. Everything relative to the action in your life could feel wonderful if you would make a decision and then line up with the decision. But when you make a decision and then you work against the decision, then you've got dissatisfaction. When you make a decision and line up with the decision, then you're in the flow. And what you begin to notice is that everything is fun, and that the universe knows where all the fun is. And when you get an idea that improves something in a way that gives you a big time improvement or something like that, it is exhilarating. In other words, all kinds of things. You are creators interested in creating. You are creators interested in creating, and what you are creating is an environment, a sort of petri dish environment where your intentions and desires can be influenced and assisted by Source and by your focus. You don't know your power.
Can our intentions and desires be the same as the Source's intentions and desires?
Your intentions and desires are. Because when life causes you to ask for it, your inner being lines up with it. Now, right away, many minds in this room went right to, what about intentions of people who are evil? What about intentions of people who are not well-wishers? And you asked earlier, what is left out of the vortex? Well, any of that pushing against stuff is not there, When you make your transition and you reemerge into non-physical, you'll leave behind all your doubt and fears and hatred and all the things that are bothering you, and you will reemerge into pure positive energy, and you will be everything that your vortex is in the moment that you make that reemergence into non-physical. Well, there are a lot of humans that don't even like that story, because they want the people that they've decided are bad to be punished when they get there. They want them to take all of their resistance and compound it. That's why hell is a creation of man's disconnected mind. And it seems so real, because you can really get on that trend where you are really blocking out all of the well-being. And when you're blocking well-being, well, we understand how it feels, and you describe it in all kinds of uncomfortable ways, you see. But what's in the vortex is pure positive energy. And the more you line up with it, the more it is reflected outward in everything that you live.
So that is the vortex coming through us.
Yes, for a while we were describing the vortex. We used Esther's arm to paint it over here, and we ask you to get into the vortex where everything you want is. And you began saying to us, well, I want that, but I can't find the door. And then we began explaining to you that the vibrational content, the vibrational atmosphere, let's even call it the vibrational frequency of the vortex, is something that you can achieve. And when you do, what's in the vortex then is realized by you. So you say, well, I want my money to come out of the vortex and into the bank. That's how it happens. That's how you turn those thoughts to those things. But in order to do that, you've got to be in the receptive mode. You've got to be in the receptive mode, which means you've got to be in a good mood. You've got to feel good. You've got to be flexible and free-willing and willing to follow an impulse, not rigid in your beliefs. No, I would never do that because I don't believe in that. You've got to be influenceable. Influenceable by what you consider to be good, by what you consider to be God force. You've got to be influenceable, which means you got to have a pure heart. Those were your words. And our words are, you got to have a happy heart. You got to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You got to be resistance free. And when you are, then the thoughts flow to you, and then the things you want come. Our most recent conversation about this, if you've been listening, you've probably heard it, but we like it so much. So Esther is in her Southern California home, and she meditates and all of the things that we're talking about. She's very consistent in that. And so one morning she came out of meditation completely in the receptive mode, and the impulse that came to her was to go to her remote that operates her televisions in the house and her sound systems and figure it out. She had not ever been able to figure it out, but she had that impulse, and the impulse was so strong and it felt like such a good idea that she sat down, and in what felt like a miraculous experience, she understood it. She understood it. It just made sense. And she laughed about how easy it really was. And so she's looking at the menu on the television, looking for some music that she wants to hear. And she's finding different music stations. And she discovered that she could play anything she wanted in any of the zones in the house. Inside the house, outside the house, in the courtyard, on the verandas, out in the gardens. And there's speakers everywhere. And now Esther has control of what they do. And so she's moving through it and having a really good time. And then she found a station, rap. And she just felt this strong urge to just stay there. And even while she had the urge to stay there, she's thinking, how odd is this? And how fun is this? So she listened and listened and listened and listened and heard and began moving. She really liked it. She listened and listened and listened and listened. And then she turned it all off and went on with her day, left the house. The next day she got up, meditated as she always does. Coming out of meditation, she had this indescribable urge to move furniture around in her house, which is not logical because every piece has been placed so carefully. Purchased for the spot, in fact, most of it. But it all looked wrong. She thought, I need to move it all, but it's heavy. I need someone to help me. So she got on the internet and found 2 men in a truck, and she called them and said, I need 2 men. Don't need a truck, but I need 2 men. They can bring the truck, but I really just need 2 men. They can bring their truck, but I don't need their truck because we're not moving anything far. And they could come right over. So 2 men come over, and they're moving things around and having a really good time, and Esther is really enjoying them. They're so strong and careful and fun and deliberate and beautiful. And so Esther's talking about what a beautiful day it is, and they are too. And then one of them says, I'm leaving, I'm going back to Alabama. And Esther said, why? And he said, because I am a rapper and I'm not getting anything going here, but I had some stuff going there, so I'm going to go back to where it's going. And Esther said, hang on a minute. So she went in, got her remote, pushed some buttons, and now at full volume in every zone, rap is happening. So she went back out into the room where they were, and his eyes are very big. He said, who are you? What do you do? And Esther said, I'm a teacher. And he said, what do you teach? And Esther said, rap. And then she admitted no. And then they got talking about how whatever you want can come to wherever you are, that the universe is awash with opportunities for you. She gave him books and CDs and conversations, and most of all, belief in him. So when you think about it, you know all of that was in Esther's vortex. Nothing she wants more than to be in a situation where she can influence someone toward their own well-being, and nothing he wanted more than to not leave San Diego. Nothing he wanted more than to be able to follow his dream right where he was. And you got to know, his inner being knew what his path of least resistance was. It was Esther. And Esther's inner being knew what her path of least resistance was. It was rap. It was the music. It was the music. It was the speakers. It was moving furniture around. They actually moved all the furniture back to where it was. It wasn't about moving the furniture. It wasn't about the furniture being moved. It was about moving the furniture. It wasn't about the creation. It was about the creating. You sort of getting what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So your inner being knows where all your paths are. And here's the thing that sometimes, and this really is the answer to the question that you said here. Sometimes you're inspired to greater clarity about something. So it's like your inner being is inspiring you right into the hornet's nest, so to speak, that causes the launching of a desire and greater clarity. Because if you don't know what you want, you cannot focus upon it. So your life is showing you what you want over and over and over again. That's step one, you asking. But step two is taken care of. That's the vortex. That's your inner being. That's law of attraction. Step two, ask and it is given. It's done vibrationally. But you got to do step three. You got to get somewhere in the vicinity of the receptive mode. And when you do, you'll start receiving. And that receiving, not just for the sake of getting from over here to over there, but for the fun of dancing from here to there, over and over and over again on lots of different subjects. For the thrill of the movement, for the thrill of the dance, for the thrill of the thought, for the thrill of the co-creation, for the thrill of the ideas, for the thrill of the confirmation, for the thrill of the compounding of who you are, for the thrill of the influence of your source within you, and then your source within you influencing outward toward others. In other words, we are all in this together, you see. And everyone has come to have a really good time. Life is supposed to feel good to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.